and welcome. This is our recent grad panel, and it's simply titled Life Outside OCIs, and it's very important to all of us right now. My name is Andrea Shaheen, and I work in Law Career Services. So I'm also a Santa Clara alum, so I was in your shoes wondering, how am I going to get a job? I didn't get a job through OCI. So we have 5 very recent alums here to share their experiences with you. I'm going to just give you a brief introduction on each of them before we turn it over to them to go through their job search process. First, on the far left, we have Michael Donahoe. And Michael's a 2011 graduate, and he attended the part-time program while working full-time at the School of Engineering here. During school, he participated in Honors Moot Court as a competitor and a board member, and he was an editor for the Computer and High Tech Journal, and he was selected to be on the Dean's List in Order of the Quake. Upon graduation, while awaiting bar results, Mike worked 3 part-time jobs and was also a graduate fellow for Professor Kreitzberg. When he passed the bar, he was hired as an associate attorney at Hayworth, Bradshaw, Skolnick, and Barber. And he recently became an attorney at Brownsbacher Proke, where he specializes in estate planning. So we're going to talk to Mike about his experience in getting those jobs in a minute. Next to Mike, we have Michelle Forrest, and she's a 2011 graduate of Santa Clara. And while at school, Michelle was on the Journal of International Law. She was a Women in Law mentor and received recognition as, including the Pro Bono Award in 2011. During her time here, she was a legal intern at the Children's Law Center of LA, and she worked for the San Francisco DA and worked at Lacey for a time before becoming an associate attorney at McManus Faulkner in their family law group. Next to Michelle, we have Jennifer Shipner, who is a 2010 graduate from Santa Clara. Michelle is an associate at Paul & McKay, where she practices in the area of civil and employment litigation. During school, she had an executive position on the Journal of International Law and was on Honors Moot Court. And she also was in Order of the Coit and received the Employment Law Scholarship. Next to Jennifer, we have Jill Blake Burke, who is a 2011 graduate, Santa Clara, and she was a technical editor for the Journal of International Law, and she was also in the Order of the Coit, but on the Dean's List. She was a judicial and clinical intern for Santa Clara County Superior Court. She also worked at the City Attorney's Office for the City of Cupertino before joining the Moreno family law firm as an associate attorney. And finally, we have Nicole Zalidi, who is a 2011 graduate of Santa Clara. And while at Santa Clara, she was comments editor for Law Review. She was an APD orientation leader, a volunteer mediator at Santa Clara Superior Court, and Emory Law Scholar, and was also selected to the Dean's List. We have a very illustrious group here. She was actually a graduate fellow for APD before becoming an associate attorney at Witzig, Hanna, Sanders, and Reagan. She specializes in workers' compensation defense with a focus on defending and protecting assets of employers. So, to you all, I just want to start and go down the line and have you guys talk about your career path during law school and how you kind of carried that through to graduation and into your current or your first job upon graduation. So, Mike, you want to take it over?
Sure, I'll be happy to. So, I started law school in 2007, right before the economy crashed, and I was told that if you focus on your grades and you finish within the top 15, maybe even 20% of your class, you're going to get swooped up by a big law firm. You don't have to worry about careers. You just go to OCI's, get a call back, get hired. So with that advice in mind, I literally focused on my studies, did well enough in my first year, and went to maybe 20 or 30 OCI interviews and didn't get a single call back. So that was pretty discouraging. As a result, I kind of had to refocus my agenda and really open myself up to other opportunities that I maybe wasn't thinking about. And as a result, I just kept scouring through SU law jobs and submitting my resume to anything, whether it looked interesting or not. So an interview popped up where I could spend the summer with a law firm that does estate planning and tax controversy. I had no experience. I hadn't even taken wills and trusts yet, and I think I lied on my cover letter and said that I had. Or I didn't lie. You shouldn't lie. I said I was enrolled in it, and I was enrolled in it, but I was intending to drop it. And I did drop it. But I got hired. I spent the summer there. It's a small estate planning group. They do a lot of high net worth clients and tax controversies. I found out that I loved it there. I really enjoyed not just the work, but the people I worked with. So after I worked there, I stayed in consistent contact with them. And I felt comfortable doing so because I was encouraged to network, but I was always hesitant of doing so because I feel like there's this real fine line between ambitious persistence and annoyance, and I didn't want to even come close to that line, so I hesitated to cold call. I hesitated to, follow up consistently with people, but with them I felt comfortable that I work with them, they liked me, I know them, they know me. So every 6 months or so, I connected with them. And it turns out that's where I work now because one of their attorneys left, and before even thinking about putting out an ad and going through a hiring process and interviewing candidates, they just went straight to me and asked me if I was interested in joining them. And at the time, I was working at a workers' comp defense firm, which I really had no interest in doing, but did it because I needed a job.
Mike, how did you find yourself in your first position?
Oh, in work comp?
Yeah.
That was a situation again where I graduated from law school, had passed the bar, and the situation arose where it was in Salinas doing work comp. I had no interest in work comp, no knowledge of work comp, had never been to Salinas before the interview. But did it because I needed a job, and I think if I could convey a message, it would be don't really foreclose yourself off to other opportunities because it's not what you want to do. It's not in the area you want to be practicing, because in this market you really just need to find a job, and I'm convinced that it's 10 times easier to get a job when you already have a job. So really just getting started is the basic thing you need to keep in mind.
So your workers comp job you got off of law jobs,
Off
SU
of
law
law
jobs.
jobs, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And you got that after finding out your bar results?
I literally interviewed the day I found out that I passed the bar. Called them on Monday saying thank you for taking the time. By the way, I passed the bar, and I got a call the next day saying that they hired me. So yeah, I could convey any message. Don't really hesitate or decide not to apply for a job because it's not what you want to be doing in this market. You guys want to be attorneys. Those skills are transferable from one practice area to another. Get the job as the attorney, and then maybe focus more on the specific area of law that you want to be practicing. And who knows? I found out within 6 months I was really enjoying what I was doing in work comp, and I made the decision to switch because there was more career growth and potential in what I'm doing now, but I found that I really liked work comp, and it's something that I maybe could have continued doing.
Michelle, how about we hear from you from your experiences and maybe like one big takeaway from that?
So I think the short answer how I ended up getting employed was I used my connections through just being a graduate, an alumni of Santa Clara, as well as my undergrad at Stanford. And I put that in the subject heading, and I just emailed, I found attorneys on the Cal Bar website and emailed them if they had gone to one of those two schools, what the corresponding school in the subject heading. I actually didn't even attach a resume and just asked if they would meet with me. So that was in this bad market about 5 months ago, and it all went pretty quickly. They largely didn't have time to meet. They'd asked me to send a resume, and then if they liked me, they called me in, and so that's how I got my job. I think the longer answer is I really focused during school on developing myself, and I think it's really important to know yourself. So there's a lot that goes into getting a job. I mean, you have recommendations, you have the interview that you have to kind of shine in, you've got your grades. You may not be an expert in all of them, so I really challenge you to know yourself. I focused a lot on interviewing. I wasn't a great interviewer. I think it's a skill. I think you have to learn how to kind of appropriately sell yourself. And I was kind of shy. I don't really like talking about myself, so it's funny that I'm here. But I really worked on it, and I think it helped. So I just challenge you to know maybe areas that in that whole spectrum that you might feel you're not as good in or whatever, or need more experience, and seek them out. So because mine was interviewing, I actually went through the OCI process. It didn't land me a job, but at least I was getting interviewing experience and things like that. So that's probably a big takeaway.
Jen, you want to give us your...
Yeah, my experience was sort of similar to Michael and Michelle's. I'm a 2010 grad, so I graduated in a market that might have even been a little worse than 2011. And I remember going through the OCI process in 2009, and I was given a job offer by a big law firm on a Tuesday, and on a Thursday that job offer was retracted because the law firm collapsed. So that sort of was my takeaway in this process. Could be unwieldy and completely unfair. In law school, I really focused on employment law. I exhausted the employment law curriculum here. I knew that's what I wanted to do. When you graduate in this market, there were absolutely no jobs available to me. And one of the things that I think that LCS and really every attorney I knew kept telling me was create your network, create your network, create your network. And I didn't want to. I didn't think about listening to that because I hate going to wine and cheese events. I mean, who doesn't love free wine and cheese? But the thought that you have to talk to these attorneys and try and sell yourself, and it's like a cold call to every person you meet at these events. And I didn't really take that into account while I was in law school. But as soon as I had graduated, I immediately regretted that decision, because my first job, where I worked for a year and a half prior as an insurance defense associate up in Oakland, I got that job through networking with previous classmates. There was an opening at this firm in Oakland, and it was a litigation-based position, no employment law whatsoever, mostly products liability, personal injury, defense, that sort of thing. And I knew that in that market I needed to take something. I needed, the litigation skills are transferable, and I could focus on employment law later on in the career, but networking through your friends, through old employers, through anyone, that's how I landed my first job. 18 months later, I went to, I'm at my second firm, and I focus more, 40 to 50% of my practice is employment and discrimination-related claims. So now I'm more of where I wanted to be than when I graduated. But really, the takeaway is when people tell you to start networking, keep those contacts. That's not just something that people say, but it's really how, particularly in our markets, you can land new leads, and you can really develop those relationships, which you might not even know 6 months from now, a year from now, where they'll lead.
Great.
Yeah, so I was a bit of the same as these three, except my first year I wasn't focused on OCIs, I was focused on not failing out. I was convinced every day, I'm failing out of school. OCIs, no way. So I didn't apply for any OCIs. Turns out I could have, should have, although it turns out I probably wouldn't have led to anything anyway. So I was stuck on SU law jobs looking for something to do for summer. And I got a good opportunity at Santa Clara Self-Help Center, where you self-help, or you help other people who are filing for divorces. You kind of meet the clients, you help them fill out their paperwork, you explain the process to them. And it was just a great way to get into the world of family law a little bit, while also meeting people and kind of understanding the legal process, service. It's little things you don't think are important, but you're all of a sudden like, wow, I would never have learned this in law school. And so I made it through the first year, the second year, and I interned then at the public defender's office, which again is something completely different. Still had no idea what I wanted to do. But again, great experience, seeing actual cases, going to court, working on actual live practice was fantastic. Back to school, third year, still had no idea what I wanted to do. Took the bar, passed the bar, got an opportunity at the city attorney's office in Cupertino because I had actually worked there also throughout law school in the Parks and Rec department. Working with the teenagers, making sure they weren't up to too much trouble, and a job opened up at the attorney's office for 3 months while someone was taking a leave of absence, and they said, hey, you went to law school, do you want this spot? Absolutely, why not? So I got great experience there. They sent me to court a few times, and it's like, okay, sure, why not? Go do it. And then kept in contact with friends from law school, saw a job posting on SU Law Jobs for Moreno Family Law Firm. Someone who I'd worked with at the Self-Help Center my first year was also an attorney there at the time. And I said, hey, I'm applying to your firm. She put in a good word. Had the interview, got the job offer on the spot, and so it worked out well. So I think big takeaway is networking. It doesn't matter if you feel awkward doing it. Do it. Tell everyone you're a lawyer, you're looking for help. It's important these days. Just anyone you know, parents, friends, friends. Hey, I'm a lawyer. You want to take my resume, see if you have any contacts? It's useful. SU Law Jobs is a huge resource. I know some people get discouraged because you apply to one job and you think, oh, this is my job, I've got it. And you get nothing. Don't get a call back. They don't even acknowledge they got your resume. What am I supposed to do? Keep applying. I've probably applied to 30 jobs, 40 jobs outside of between November and March while at the city attorney's office before I got this job. It's all about applying. Get ins wherever you can, stay in contact with classmates, and eventually it'll all work out.
That's encouraging. Nicole?
I'm basically going to echo what they all said, just in the sense of definitely take advantage of every opportunity that's kind of thrown at you or that you get, because all that experience is so helpful. And even if it's not a field that you're interested in or that type of thing, it's very true what they've all said, that those skills are transferable. And what employers are definitely looking at in this market are not only grades but experience, because they don't have necessarily a lot of time to train and that type of thing. And so they really are looking for people that have had that exposure to courtroom work, transactional work, all that type of thing. I also found the alumni network to be a huge thing for me. That's basically where I started first year when I was applying for internships. It was right after everything kind of collapsed. And I definitely went through I think it was Martin Hubble or one of those ones where you could look at alumni from the schools. And I wrote letters just like Michelle did to alums and just asked if I could meet with them, if they had any opportunities and that type of thing. And I got a great response from people, even if it didn't lead to a job, it's forming those connections. That was so important. I also expanded my network to undergrad as well as to high school alums, especially if you have a local high school, a smaller high school, that type of thing. You'd be surprised how many people end up in the law field from that area too, and that they really want to help you out. I mean, the alumni base is really strong from this school and just from all over, trying to tap into those connections. And I also got my job through SCU Law Jobs. I was lucky that the firm that I work at, 3 out of the 4 partners are alums, and 3 out of the 4 associates are alums. And so they were actually only hiring from Santa Clara. They said that because of this market, they only put their ad on Santa Clara Law Jobs. I also got 2 of my internships through SCU Law Jobs. And I also, too, I think I logged on the other day and I had like 60 applications had been filled out. So just definitely keep applying to everything. I agree that if any opportunity comes your way or anyone says, I mean, everyone has like a cousin's brother's girlfriend who's an attorney and they want to see your resume or that type of thing, definitely send it along. It can't hurt, and you never know if it's like the court reporter or that type of person that might have an in or might know something. And definitely check in with people, like they said, if you've made connections. Don't feel nervous about sending an email or something to follow up or just to say hi. I'm also one of those people, I think, like by sending the 3rd email, I'm like in restraining order or something. So I am nervous about that type of stuff, but people don't mind at all. So do take advantage of those networking. And last thing, your classmates. That's huge. Now that I've been working in the class of 2011, I think I've had 3 other of my classmates have had openings in their firms that aren't advertised, and they emailed me and said, hey, look, there's this opening in my firm, that type of thing. Do you or any of your friends know of anyone. So keep connections with all your classmates. That's going to be huge at the end of the day.
That I completely agree. I mean, this is your base for your network right here is your classmates. And that's how so many people get internships through, you know, people that work for judges. I mean, the judges ask, oh yeah, can you get one of your classmates to take over when you're done? I mean, that's really common. Nicole, so you mentioned the alumni network really was huge for you. And, you know, the Santa Clara law alums, even the undergrad alums, and your high school alum. How did you approach all of them? I mean, you talk about sending an email, LinkedIn. I mean, what do you feel is a really effective way to connect?
That's a great question. I think definitely with all the availability of the internet and Google now, I did start by sending emails. A lot of them would email me back, say give me a call, that type of thing. I did go out to lunch with a few of them. I think that email for me was my approach because I'm more of that type of person. If you're a phone person and you have good phone skills and that, don't hesitate to pick up the phone. You know, even if it's after hours, leave a message and just say, hey, I'm an alum, are you interested in talking to me about your job or that type of thing. I know that at Law Career Services, they definitely were helpful in being like to softball it, kind of not that you're looking for a job, but just looking for information and just kind of getting your name out there was really important. I know also that my high school just started a group on Facebook for like a business networking, and everyone's been posting what they're doing and what opportunities they have and all that type of things. And it was started by some recent alum who's having problems in the market, and it's like grown huge. I think there was like 50 postings or something. So that's definitely take advantage of social media, LinkedIn, all that type of thing, and I think it should be helpful.
Great. Now, Mike, you had mentioned previously that you had 3 jobs at one point after you graduated.
Right.
During the time when you were looking for jobs, because this is after taking the bar. Do you feel like that was just to, you know, keep meeting and working with different people in the field and keeping your experience going? I mean, did you feel like that was effective for you?
Well, it was really for 2 purposes. One was to just sustain myself, because no part-time job out there is going to offer you anything more than really, you know, $15, $20 an hour if you're lucky. And 2, like you said, was to really expand my network and develop connections. I worked with the sleaziest but really nice personal injury attorney that you could imagine. I mean, as a person, he was really nice, but as an attorney, I mean, it was personal injury, and he'd been doing it for 40 years. He knew what he was doing, but he knew what he was doing. So, and again, it's a situation where I never had any interest in doing personal injury, but the other 2 positions that I was working were doing financial administration, which was similar to what I'd done throughout law school, and just a kind of fellowship here with Professor Kreitzberg working on her death penalty book. Again, death penalty law is something that I have no interest in, but it was an opportunity, and it kept my legal skills honed, and it showed potential employers that I'm open to different things. I have a broad scope of skills that are transferable. So if workers' comp potential employer looks at my resume and says, hey, you don't have any employment law or workers' comp or insurance defense experience, I can say, yeah, but I have experience doing, you know, IP law, estate planning law, tax law, personal injury law, criminal law. If I can do all these, I could probably do work comp too. And they understood that I probably wasn't going to have much experience, and hiring an entry-level attorney, employers understand that there's going to be a certain amount of hand-holding going on. But I think they appreciated the fact that I've demonstrated an ability to learn quickly and achieve a sufficient amount of competence in various areas of law so as to give them confidence that I'd be able to achieve the same level of competence in work comp.
I think a concern that a lot of students have is that if you just accept any job in a field that maybe you're not interested in, or you're really not interested in, you know, how difficult is it going to be to make a transition to something that you really want to do down the line?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think for you, you had a really unique circumstance where you had a contact at the estate planning firm, you knew you wanted to do estate planning. How difficult do you think it would have been otherwise to get yourself into that area if you didn't have those contacts already established?
That was a serious concern for me. I was totally on the fence on whether or not I should take this job because I was absolutely scared of pigeonholing myself into a specific area of law and finding myself 3 years down the road looking back saying, how did I get here? What happened to my goals?
It happens.
And I had a very important mentor who literally said, you know what? People change careers as attorneys 10 years down the road. What's more important now is getting that experience because I was really going to work frustrated that I was driving 120 miles each day, 600 miles a week. And I was frustrated because this wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And he said, you know what, just accept it and do it. Have a job. And he really helped me gain a different perspective and see it not necessarily as I'm going to get stuck here so much as this is a great opportunity for me to learn and develop. And if something comes along, I have this experience to bring to that. So I was frustrated at first because I was scared I would get pigeonholed, but gaining that new perspective and seeing it as an opportunity as opposed to more of a restriction really helped.
And if I could just touch on that, I had a very similar situation to Michael where my first job was doing, like I said, personal injury products liability. I did not want to do that. I was working in Oakland and living in San Jose, so I was driving 100 miles a day for almost 18 months in that first job. And I am a testament that you can actually get a job off of Craigslist. It is possible. People will respond to you because I can't imagine how many emails I sent out to those places on Craigslist and you get nothing. But my current job I actually found on Craigslist, so about a little over a year after being sort of a PI attorney, I knew I wanted to get back to doing what I, at that time thought that I really loved, which was employment law. And this opportunity came up on Craigslist. I emailed. I was later told they received 76 applications in the one day that it was posted. So there is some heavy competition to get those jobs out there. But it's just a matter of thinking, you want to probably stay at your first job for a little while so it doesn't look like you're constantly bouncing around on a resume. But it's important to remember what you want to practice and how you want to practice that and how you're going to sell yourself later on. So when I came to interview at my current firm, I didn't have current attorney employment law experience. I didn't have multifamily housing and real estate experience. But what I did know how to do is draft really excellent discovery and motions for summary judgment, and I had gone to trial. And these things, no matter where you are, if you're practicing litigation, you can transfer that. And so really it's knowing what you want in your head and how you want to practice, but being able to sell the skills you have, because whatever your first job is, you can parlay that into something else.
Michelle, I want to ask you a question. So, for the students who don't have time to really be working, multiple jobs, I mean, they're lucky to have some job or an internship or an externship during the semester with their class load. I mean, how can they begin to really network now in terms of going to functions or reaching out? I mean, is it something simple as committing to, sending a message to an alum each week? I mean, do you have some specific recommendations?
Well, I guess first, and it's kind of obvious, but I think take advantage of what the career office the events they already put on, because I do remember some of those. And I guess one a week or something like that would make sense, but make it purposeful. Like, I guess the way I approached it was I knew I really wanted to get out of the classroom, and so I started developing a professional network. I wanted to work with families, kids, and so I got out of the classroom and did externships in that. So I started reaching out very early. I don't think I was actually doing multiple emails, but I found like an organization I wanted to look at, and I would just kind of target them, and actually I didn't get it through OCI one time, but my work at Lazy, and I just kept calling, and I finally got it for like a fall.
So you
externship
called,
later.
you weren't were you sending emails or did you make
I
phone
think
calls?
it might have been an email, but I didn't give up after I didn't get it at OCI. So I don't know, so I guess make it purposeful and an area you want, and for me, it looked at like getting out of the classroom and, doing externships in the fields that I wanted to practice in. And so I knew a ton of people, and it started to crisscross by the time I had worked about 4 or 5 different places.
And this question's for all of you. Do you feel when a student's reaching out to connect with an alum or with another attorney or in any practice area, do you feel like it's effective, to simply ask for a position or for a clerkship or for some sort of something concrete, or do you think it's better to ask for some sort of informational interview? I mean, what approach do you think is more effective?
I've recently had a couple of SU students reach out to me and ask for informational interviews. I think if I was presented with the question of, I am looking for a job, do you have anything, just sort of straightforward. I mean, as an associate attorney, I don't make those hiring decisions. And so the most I can do is pass on a resume. But I think so. But that being said, I think one of the things you have to look forward to is protecting your integrity as a young attorney. It's really one of the few things that you have immediately coming out of law school. And for me, I need to know the person that I'm going to be recommending or passing on that resume. So I think on a personal level, I need to speak to the person and have an informational lunch or go out to coffee or do something like that. So I can trust the fact that when I do recommend the person for an interview or pass their resume on to one of my connections, that I feel pretty confident in that person's ability on a personal level and whatever their work competency might be.
Do you think students should reach out to associates as well as partners?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, associates, whether they like it or not, are always in their partner's office. So they have a good ear to pass on information.
And if work is needed, they know somebody that's interested in that practice area. Oh yeah, that person that emailed me, student at Santa Clara emailed me. I might as well, let them know that we've got possible work for them.
Right.
And I would throw out there when you would send that email to also a plug for not going so hardcore as saying, do you have a job today? And, I'd like to apply. Just saying, can you meet and just discuss or, share with me what it looks like to practice in this field? Because you get double out of it. You kind of are selling yourself potentially maybe for a position, but you're actually gaining a lot of information. So, I mean, I find that I actually started to really enjoy doing that. I actually kind of did it on purpose in different fields, and people that worked for a long time in certain fields or not very long, or the policy side versus just all of them were actually to help myself to see where I wanted to fit. So I throw out there is a real value in just meeting people, to meet them and ask them what their life looks like in their job.
I agree. I feel like you shouldn't go into any of these networking or meeting situations with the understanding that there's potential employment involved. I think you should go into it with the understanding that that's not the case, because 99% of the time it's not. But there really is, you get the opportunity to meet somebody, get your name out there, but more importantly, I think you get to learn, especially from the associates you meet with, what life is like as an associate attorney in that area of law. And then if you do have an interview somewhere down the line in that practice area, you can take what they informed you of in terms of what life is like as an associate and really gear the interview towards that, shape the interview towards that, so that it shows what the partners are expecting of you, or the firm is expecting of you, and what the work's going to be like. And I think that'll make things stand out, as opposed to just, yeah, I've got great interpersonal skills and I work really hard. Being able to tailor the interview makes you stand out in the interview process.
Okay, so let's say that, everyone here takes your advice, they connect with alums in practice areas they're interested in, and, have an email exchange or possibly a coffee date or, happy hour date. Do you think, what do you think they should do in terms of follow-up after that? How often, what's the next step after you have a meeting or an email exchange? Nicole, you want to?
Sure. My first step is always thank you notes. I think those are huge. Just letting them know that you enjoyed meeting them, that type of thing. As for follow-up after that, definitely I think one piece of advice I got was, if something happens like you pass the bar, or you just took the bar, or you have a question about life as an associate or that type of thing, shoot them an email about it or give them a phone call. Just kind of keep that conversation going. As you would with a friend or an acquaintance from school. If you're not, and especially, like everyone else has said, it is important just to meet those people, to meet them because their experiences are huge. And sometimes you'll find that you have a group in common, or you're both in junior league, or you both like to play soccer and they have a soccer league, or that type of thing. And so you can find other things to connect on that maybe you can keep in contact with them. I didn't set a rule for how often or that type of thing, but definitely when I was in between jobs or I was applying to a job that maybe was in their area or that type of thing, I'd send them an email and just check in with them on that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. You think when you're a student, you're like, oh, I don't want to bother them. But now if I get those emails, oh yeah, like no problem. Love to help people out. I think people from Santa Clara generally like to help out Santa Clara students and Santa Clara alums. So meet up. Say, can we go grab a coffee? Learn what they do. Learn what their interests are outside of work. Connect on a different level other than law. Some people, on the weekends, they don't want to talk about law. So connect in another way, and if an event happens or, you have a question, maybe you're taking a class that's in their specialty and you want to ask them a question about that, you can always find an excuse to connect, or you just say, hey, how's it going? I haven't heard from you in a while. How's the job? Have you heard anything? Are there any openings? Do you know anyone hiring? Another thing is, you don't need to necessarily say, are you guys hiring? Hey, I'm looking for a job. Do you know anyone in your field who's looking for someone? It doesn't necessarily have to be that person. I mean, people have tons of connections. You get a job and all of a sudden the world opens up and you're meeting people in court, thousands of attorneys, hundreds probably, but the world opens up. So just connect back with the person every month, 2 months. Doesn't necessarily have to be a set time. You don't necessarily need a particular reason. They're not going to mind. I know you feel awkward doing it, like, hi, how's it going, like attorney, but it's not a big deal. They're happy to do it, especially I know from Santa Clara alums, they're usually very happy to do it.
Yeah, and they, and I've heard, even at our panel last week, they really emphasize, the partners emphasize that you let them worry about filtering the number that they get. It's your responsibility to reach out to them, and they can determine, how they'll respond to you. And they almost always will respond. And even if they're too busy, they'll let you know. So don't hold back for feeling awkward or feeling like you're being a stalker or something. So, yeah, I think they appreciate seeing the initiative more. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk more about, what you guys did during law school. You guys all had really stellar academic achievements and activities while you were here. Did you feel like that really created more opportunities for you, or how do you feel? Do you feel like it was more your persistence to find your current jobs, or did those activities help and achievements help bolster your search for that?
I can answer that a little bit because I've thought about it a lot, but I would say both. I think taking the initiative stands out, so being persistent cannot help. Cannot hurt you. But one thing I did, because I knew I wanted to be in the courtroom or at least gain experience to decide, and then decide that I didn't want to, was I was a certified law student, and so I actually was in the courtroom quite a bit as a student. So you can kind of tell I kind of tailored my education. Like I got out of the classroom. That wasn't where I loved to be too much. I really like to be with clients, so I worked a lot of the clinics here, did the externships, and then I was also always trying to get in the courtroom by being a certified law student. So I really put a huge plug into that, to applying to do that. It's just paperwork after you finish the course requirements of like CivPro and evidence, I think. So you can do it once you start your second year. And it was amazing. So especially if you want to get in the Corps, I really think that probably did stand out, that I could hit the ground running. I didn't have to get trained on my job very much. Nobody had to go to court with me even once. I'd already done it like 5-6 times. So, you know, for the small things that they gave me, I was fine on my own. So I think that helped. So I really, really enjoyed that. It was a great experience, and I think it was very helpful.
So if you know that you have an idea that you want to be in litigation, that
Yeah.
might be a good thing to do. Is there any other activity that you guys would encourage students, like if you know you want to be in a certain practice area, you know, do this during school?
I didn't do this during school, but now being on the other side, I wish that I had, is that the Santa Clara County Bar Association has tons of sort of practice area groups that if, I don't know how it works if you're a law student, they may actually allow you to join the SCCBA on a reduced fee or for free, so I wouldn't be the one for details on that. But I know that, you know, my office is really active in the, you know, commercial real estate, multifamily housing groups, the employment groups, and you can go to these meetings, you can go to these events, and be an active part of the Santa Clara County Bar Association. You can do that starting today, just by virtue of going to law school here. And I think that in terms of networking and really figuring out if you're interested in this area of law, it's a great place to start.
Do you think the attorneys that are members are receptive to students attending? I mean, that's something that
Yeah, absolutely.
students should feel comfortable that it's not, you know, it wouldn't be an awkward thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the events that we attend, some of them are informative, like MCLE based and educational, and we actually discuss a lot, and some of them are just sitting around and having lunch. So, I mean, in terms of figuring out what the lifestyle is with that practice area, and getting to know the people who are practicing in Santa Clara County, I think people are really receptive in these groups.
If you guys need more information on the local bar associations, you can go up to Career Services and we'll help you out. So if you have questions about that. But, anyone else want to add anything to that? I mean, if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask some questions.
I actually did do that in my last year of law school once I realized I wanted to be kind of in the estate planning and tax controversy side. But I was in a situation where I was hesitant to go because it was going to be a bunch of attorneys and I'd just be a law student and I didn't know anybody. So I just recruited a buddy to go with me, and the two of us went, and we ended up going every month for the last 6 months we were in law school, and it was a situation where we were able to really learn. It was their MCLE event, so their education programs for attorneys. So not only did I get to kind of network, but I also got to learn some substantive law that was really beneficial as a law student and as I sought career opportunities.
Do you have a question? Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering, for those positions that you didn't necessarily have any interest in that area of law, what do you say in an interview? Do they ask you, why are you interested in this area of law? What do you say? You want to be honest, but if you really have no interest and you're just trying to get a job, like, how do you sell yourself on that level?
Good question.
For those of you who have a position in an area that you
Like
have
workers'
no
comp.
interest in.
I
So-
interviewed with an ex-cop, and he saw my resume, and I had all this employment stuff on here because all the internships that I did in law school were all employment related, and he was like, what are you here for? Like, aren't you gonna leave us in a year? Like, let's be real. And he's got this cop stare, and he's like a little bulldog looking at me, and I was sort of flabbergasted, but I think, you know, two things. First, going in as an entry-level attorney, you know absolutely nothing. So that's just a warning for anyone who thinks they're going to hit the ground running and go to trial in a month. You won't. And so they know hiring you right out of law school, you're going to need a lot of hand-holding, as Michael said. But really, the goal is to show that you are really interested in doing something related. So let's say I was doing personal injury litigation. I wanted to do employment litigation. The litigation skills, interacting with clients, being a part of that litigation process, you can still say you're interested in that and be honest. And really, it's about you went to law school and you want to practice law, and you're practicing law. They would give you an opportunity to do that.
And I would absolutely reiterate that. Be honest with them. They've already looked at your resume. They already realize you don't have any experience in this, but they've brought you in for an interview nonetheless. Just say, you know what? I went to law school with the intention of doing this. The market crashed. I'm still interested in being an attorney and working to serve whoever the client is or whoever the constituent is, or even just kind of the public good or an officer of the court. And this is going to be a great opportunity for me to gain some great experience, and I have related experience in other areas of law that I've practiced in the past, or externed in or interned in. And really, like I said earlier, highlight the fact that you have experience in different areas that aren't necessarily this area, but that you've been able to demonstrate proficiency in that area, and as a result, you're going to be able to demonstrate proficiency and learn quickly and develop competency in this area. So that's a really good opportunity to not only talk about your past experience, but also how that past experience is going to benefit them should they hire you, which employers always want to hear during interviews.
I have a question regarding being a certified law student and then doing something like honors moot court. Have employers told you that they find being a certified law student is more valuable than doing something like honors moot court because you're actually out in the real world doing it instead of all internal competition?
So I didn't do moot court just because I knew that wasn't what I didn't like that for some reason, but I enjoyed the other kind of going court. I can't really explain it, but I can't say I've heard anybody say that specifically. I chose to follow my interests, and I just kind of was like, well, I'm going to let the cards fall where they are. I think it's experience, great experience. I don't think, I just can't believe that, you're not going to get a job if you don't do the moot courts, stuff, and I speak to that, and I didn't. So I would hold them as equal, I guess. And I would just say do what you enjoy more, and if it's going to touch on the skills that you want to use. I knew I wanted to do, I didn't want to do necessarily big trials right away, but I just loved going to court and doing kind of short hearings and always being before a judge and stuff. So it just fit for me. I don't know the relative weight. I don't know if anyone else does. But.
Well, I can tell you that I did do moot court because I thought you need to do moot court to get a job in OCIs. I did do the High Tech Law Journal as an associate and an editor because you need to do that to get a job with OCI. Neither played any role whatsoever in me getting a job. I enjoyed the experiences. It gave me an opportunity to meet people in law school who I maybe otherwise wouldn't have met because I was a part-time student. But I don't think they play a role whatsoever other than just being a line on my resume.
And I think it's for me just because now what I do, I go to court, or I have to. I go to the hearings periodically. And so.
And following up on that, following up on that, I think one of the key things in the interview and what a lot of people told me and even my own firm told me is just to have some talking points during that interview of things you're interested about and passionate about. And they're going to be able to tell and really like that. And so if you do any activities outside of that, the fact that you're going to be able to talk about it and talk about your experience and have those things in an interview is going to be huge.
So my question is for all the panelists. There's a lot of good advice on what we should be doing, but are there certain things that shouldn't be our focus during law school? Like the other side of the coin.
There's probably a lot of things, but.
Well,
We just had a law student clerk with us over the summer, and I was sort of in charge of supervising his work. And when he was wrapping up his summer with us, he came in and we were talking about his experience and what he should be doing. He was a summer of his second year, so he was going into his third year at Hastings. And the only thing I could recommend, which is something I didn't do, or sort of wouldn't do again, is have fun your third year. Keep in mind that you are going to take the bar, and it is going to be an absolutely miserable experience for you. And you are going to commiserate with everyone else in this room when you do take the bar. And when you enter your area of law, you know, you will be practicing that full time. And so all the interesting classes that Santa Clara offers to you that are completely unrelated to what you want to potentially do with your life, like, you know, I should have taken animal law because I will never practice animal law. I shouldn't say never, but it's probably not in the cards for me. But use that third year and even your second year when you can, you know, build your skills and really network, but try to enjoy this experience as much as you can and really go out there and take classes that you would never take. Because, so in that sense, what you shouldn't do is just take bar classes to take bar classes, because you will learn that stuff when you study for the bar. There's no need to exhaust it, that curriculum, in my opinion, if you don't need to.
Anyone else? Something you absolutely should not do?
Just don't be not professional. So be as professional as you can, like everything, you know. Be prepared for your interviews. So it's not the don't, but you know.
Like even with your
Don't be not unprofessional.
even with your fellow students, because, you know, like we already said, you know, those are potential connections that could get you a job in the future. And if you were, you know, always rolling in class late and, you know, just kind of not really engaged, I mean, they're going to remember that. So just keep that in mind.
So I guess I didn't catch this in each one's kind of introduction. When did y'all start the, you know, intense networking and intense SU law jobs time? Like, is it something one else should start doing and making networking connections like their priority, or is it something that you fell into when you graduated, passed the bar, and didn't have a position?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely think it hit me my first summer when I was looking for jobs, and it was in that, yeah, kind of the bad, I think when the bad time started. I felt like it's this big black cloud, but I learned that the first summer was that it was going to be huge to be networking and being creative and finding jobs just for internships and that type of thing. And so I would think my second and third year, I started really trying to go to more of the activities, trying to get more involved. First year, it's true. I got the same advice. Focus on your grades. Try to get that really good base to start off with. I don't know how important it's going to be in the long run, but that is what I did. And then second and third year really started. I don't think it's ever too late, though.
Yeah, I was kind of the same as Nicole. I was looking for that first job after 1L year, or close to the end of 1L year. It's like, oh, right. I don't know anyone. And it was, you know, you take the steps, you talk to people who are attorneys, who know attorneys. Everyone knows an attorney somewhere. They know one. And just start there. You don't have to do it constantly. You don't have to be sending out 30 things a day. You know, every week or two, see if you can meet someone else or even email someone else. And definitely second year, start ramping up a little more when you kind of have a handle on what you're doing. You might know more what you want to do. And then third year, a little more. And then that time between you take the bar in July and you find out in November, and a lot of places aren't hiring because they don't know if you pass the bar. I mean, that's kind of the time to do as much as you can. If you're not working even any field, you know, a lot of empty space, do as much as you can. You know, do applications, meet people. That's a huge, like, chunk of time where a lot of people don't work or don't work full time, and that's a great time to do stuff too.
I hadn't really given this much thought, but I'm thinking about it now. If somebody who literally was in their first week or first month or even first year of law school reached out to me, my initial reaction would probably be, whoa, a little ambitious, are we? So that would just be my initial reaction, as opposed to somebody who's in their last semester of law school and says, hey, I'm graduating, I'm interested in doing this, can you meet? So I think I would approach those two situations very differently, or at least have a different initial reaction to those two situations, and maybe that's just me.
Well, and I think if a first year were to approach you saying, you know, I noticed that you're practicing estate planning, and I'm intrigued, I'm interested, can you, share with me, can you meet with me to talk about your practice area? That's something where they're seeking information from you about what you do, and it's not necessarily, they're probably not going to get a job from you, and they probably know that.
Right.
But if it's framed in that way, would you still feel like?
Yeah, I think I would.
You would still feel like, oh, this is a little extreme for first year. Maybe wait till your second year.
No, maybe just that this is a bit of a strong personality type who really has stuff together, I mean, it's just so out of the norm from what I would expect that it would catch me off guard.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't necessarily think it would be a bad thing, it's just, it would be something different that I would have an odd reaction to.
Anybody else have thoughts on that? Timing?
I mean, I think it's completely fine to like split it kind of in half, like the first half of your log group, keep it fun, keep it more social, take advantage of the, the events that are here, especially, I think you really should focus on your studies the first year, no one really expects you to do, the hardcore networking, I think make it flow out of just what you're doing, what you love, those kind of things. Get involved, that kind of push, that kind of networking, and then the second half, being more intentional. I was gonna echo the period of time waiting for your bar results. I do think it is important to do something legal related there. I volunteered, I didn't have anything lined up at that point, but I had, and I didn't do it 5 days a week, I couldn't, so everyone's finances are different. You can go ahead, but even 2 days, I think it helped. Someone looked at my resume like, oh, you're pretty involved. That has to mean that, they like that I was still doing that. So as much as you can, continue it all the way, until they tell you.
Are there any other final questions before we wrap it up? I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy associate schedules to be here. It was really, really great information, and hopefully the students can contact you if they have any questions. That was great. Thank you for coming.